Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is something I've been looking forward to for a long time. I have told people before I'd be totally okay with Marvel not making any more movies as long as I kept getting Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn did something really special with the first Guardians of the Galaxy. He took these obscure, unknown characters that nobody had ever heard of, don't you go pretending like you knew who they were, and made them household names. Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 are two of my favorite movies. They're just really fun and unique and have so much style to them, and they have such a focus on characters and emotions, which really makes them stand out.
Now I'm standing. You all happy? We're all standing up now. Bunch of jackasses standing in a circle.
Ever since Endgame, I found myself caring less and less about Marvel. I don't know if it's just the quantity of projects from films to TV shows that it's become more of a chore to keep up with, or that they just don't feel as passionate or personal as they used to be. Not to say that it's all bad, there's been some new Marvel projects that I have enjoyed, but some of them have just been really bad lately. Like, have you seen the latest Thor and Ant-Man? Like, the best part of Thor Love and Thunder was, to no one's surprise, the Guardians, who are in it for the first 10 minutes and then they're gone, which is probably for the best.
I'm putting them down.
Charge. Well, maybe you need to find the charger.
And then the rest of it was just unfunny and embarrassing. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is basically just a Spy Kids movie, but that would be doing a disservice to Spy Kids. I'm pretty sure Michael Douglas was drunk through the whole thing and Michelle Pfeiffer was having crack withdrawals. I saw both these movies with Legomatic 9, so I guess I just need to stop watching movies with him. At this point, I just wanted Guardians 3 to be good, so I could have my trilogy and stop caring about Marvel. And I'm happy to say that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is really good. The movie is surprisingly violent and dark for a Marvel movie, which I am all here for. The more gritty and real you can make something feel, the easier it is to become invested in it. And I always love when a series gets more mature with each entry, and this is definitely one of those cases where it grows up with the audience. It's a pretty fast-paced affair, which was a little jarring at first. I think I would have liked to have had a little more setup before things kicked into action, but at the same time, this is the third movie in the series, and at this point you know all the characters and you don't really need to take the time to explain everyone's motivations, and once things get going, it flows together pretty well. The movie is 2 hours and 29 minutes long, but it doesn't feel like that. The pacing is really good. There's not a dull moment. The visual effects are pretty good as they can be for a Marvel movie. They're not super realistic or anything, but they get the job done. The cinematography was pretty standard. There was a couple parts that stood out, one with a rotating camera shot and another one-shot style action sequence where they put everything together to look like there was no cuts, which was pretty entertaining to watch. Speaking of action, the choreography was good, fun to watch, you knew what was happening. There was never a point where things were unclear what was going on. The soundtrack is a big part of these movies, and this one was pretty weak compared to the other two. I think I just have more of an affinity towards 70s music, and this time around they decided to integrate other eras of music, but I think the first two movies had a stronger soundtrack as a whole compared to this one. You also don't have the personal connection with the music anymore. Not to say the MP3 player Quill got from Yondu isn't a special gift, but Yondu didn't pick out the music unlike how the awesome mixtapes were hand-selected songs by his mother. There never felt like a scene where the music kinda took over like in the other two movies. The aforementioned one-shot take scene does have a song throughout, but the song kinda fades into the background, so I would have liked to have seen a bit stronger use of the music. Like, come on, they use Crazy on You for like half a second and then they cut it off. The comedy in this was pretty good. Some things didn't work for me, but overall, when it comes to Marvel humor, Guardians has always worked better for me than a lot of the other movies. I found myself chuckling and laughing throughout pretty consistently. Nobody gave a bad performance. I love this group of characters and they're just so endearing and fun to watch. Everybody had something to do, nobody felt like they were wasted. The villain in this movie is one of the best Marvel villains, period. I don't think I've hated a character more in a long time. He is so demented and evil, I couldn't stand the sight of him. Chris Pratt is great as Star-Lord like always. Drax and Mantis have a lot of nice character moments. They're still your comedic relief characters, but they're not just played for laughs. They have important stuff to do. Nebula is a late addition to the team, and she has a hard time showing compassion, so she just ends up insulting people, which is pretty funny. But you can tell she does care about people, and Groot is Groot. They all bounce off each other naturally. This movie really shows the dysfunctional family that they've become, but that's kind of the point, right? They're a bunch of misfits with tragic and troubled past who all came together and made a family. The character that really conveys this idea the most is Rocket. His whole storyline in this was the best part of the movie, and it's hard to talk about without getting into spoilers, and there are some other things I want to talk about that I consider spoilers, so Spoiler warning, if you have not seen Volume 3, I would suggest you go do that and then come back, or skip to this point in the video. Everything to do with Rocket was so good. Like, he's always been one of my favorite parts of these movies.
In there? I can't believe you had that in your purse!
And in this, he gets a lot of attention. His entire backstory is such a tragic tale, and it got to me, man. It takes a lot to make me cry. I'm not one of those schmucks that will cry when CGI puppet Luke Skywalker pops up in The Mandalorian. Like, you need to hit those emotional beats to get me to shed a tear, and the story with Rocket really got to me. He's a character that carries so much sadness. In the first movie, he thinks nobody likes him or cares about him, and in the second, he has people that like him and care about him, and he doesn't know how to deal with that, or how to show it back. This line from the first movie of Rocket saying,
He thinks I'm some stupid thing, he does! Well, I didn't ask to get made! I didn't ask to be torn apart and put back together over and over and turned into some little monster! Rocket, no one's calling you a monster.
has so much more weight and meaning now. Seeing him ripped apart and turned into a science experiment, and believing that all this torture will lead to a happy life, only to realize that him and his friends are expendable in the eyes of those who made them, and they were just going to be thrown away without a second thought, and how determined he was to save his friends, his family, only to see them killed right in front of him, was just heartbreaking. Now, when I said best villain, I meant it. I hate the High Evolutionary. Jaquudi Iwuji did a fantastic job playing this character. Every scene with him had your full attention. There was one line in particular that worked so well, and that was when he said, "There is no God, that is why I stepped in." It just perfectly showed how crazy and egotistical and demented his character is. Like, even his evil henchmen realize he's a nut job and turn on him at one point. Like, he's just insane. I don't need some tragic backstory, like he's just an evil man and you want to see him go down. When the whole team starts kicking his ass and ragdolling him around, I couldn't help but just have that feeling of just hell yeah, fucking kill him, which I don't really know why Rocket spared his life. I guess killing him out of hatred is not the Jedi way or the Guardian way or whatever. Would have been more satisfying if he just blew his head off. He's definitely dead, right? Now, when I said the story is pretty basic, what I mean by that is the movie starts out immediately with the Guardians getting attacked by Adam Warlock, and Rocket is mortally wounded, and they can't perform surgery on him because he has a kill switch, so the plot of the movie is to bypass the kill switch so they can save Rocket. It's pretty straightforward, and that's what I meant about the movie being a little jarring at first with how fast it moves into the plot, but when it gets going, it works, because the fact that they're all willing to die to save their one friend shows how much they care about each other. There's a theme in the movie about not running away and facing your problems head on, and also about being able to view one's self-worth. It's kind of an arc that everybody goes on in this movie. Quill has to deal with the fact that Gamora doesn't love him anymore, which makes him pretty depressed, and he resorts to drinking to mask the issue, but it's not until the people around him, like Drax and Mantis, tell him that he needs to find himself and maybe look at other things in front of him that he's been ignoring, like his grandpa, kind of showing him that there's other things in life that are worth your time and attention. Mantis believes she needs to take time to find herself and leaves the group at the end, which I didn't see coming, but I think it's an interesting idea for her character. Drax is finally able to be a father again to the children they rescued. Nebula has found a new home and a new purpose of being a guardian and a protector, and at the end, Rocket is the new leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he has found that he has worth, he can help others, and he can be loved. And Groot is, well, Groot. One thing that didn't work for me was Gamora. Now, I understand why she is the way that she is in this movie. After the events of Infinity War, I was curious how they were going to continue the story of the Guardians with the death of Gamora. But at the end of Endgame, Gamora is back. But she's not the same Gamora, because she's a younger version of her that had never met any of the crew. And now in this movie, she's there, but she's just a dick. Which makes sense, and it does work for what they had to work with. That being said, I still don't really care for it. Almost would have rather her stayed dead, because cutting her out of this story, not much would change. Besides, her character arc is just relearning to like the group, and it's just kind of a rehash of the first movie. It leads to some nice moments, but it just kind of feels like they had to write her this way because what they did with her character in the Avengers movies. And even the story in this of Quill could have easily been him dealing with the fact that she died, and I don't think it would have changed much. You also got characters like like Kraglin and Adam Warlock, but there's not too much to talk about with them. Adam Warlock is more of a comedic relief villain than anything, and Kraglin is just a supporting character. This is something I did want to mention, and that is that they don't really talk about the 5-year gap of Infinity War where Rocket and Nebula were the only ones alive. I thought that would have played into things a little more. Not that I'm complaining, I really enjoyed the story we got, I just thought that they would have brought it up more. My friends brought this to my attention, and this is a little dumb. At the end of the movie, we have a fake-out death with Star-Lord, which I will say I don't care for. We already had a fake-out death with Rocket, so having 2 of them in a row, not a fan. But I really didn't think about this because he didn't have it at all throughout the movie, but my friends pointed out, where the hell was his helmet? Which I guess is why he didn't have it throughout the movie, but still, if he did, that situation could have been avoided. And you know, he's not part god anymore, so you would think that he would be permanently fucked up from that, but they got these little med kits that just instantly heal any wounds, so I guess that's how he got fixed up. I don't know. Also, during the final fight, there are 2 points where the cockpit of their ships get the glass broken, and they don't get sucked out into space and freeze to death, but then later Star-Lord almost freezes to death, so it's a little inconsistent and kind of annoying. I was kind of hoping someone might die, you know, to give the story a little weight, but how they wrapped everything up at the end, it's just such a nice, happy ending that it doesn't bother me they all lived, because it just made me feel happy. Now, in typical Marvel fashion, they do tease more to come with these characters, but as far as I know, James Gunn is done with Marvel, and I don't think most of the cast is staying around. I could be wrong. I just don't know how interested I would be in a Guardians 4 without the same crew or creative leads behind it, but I guess we'll see. It's just really nice that all these movies in this trilogy are good. I don't feel like Marvel's had a good trilogy. They always got one movie that kind of sucks in some way, but for once, all 3 movies are really strong, which just makes me so happy. This movie is a great send-off to these characters if they do not plan on making any more movies with this particular crew. I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's a lot darker in tone compared to the other ones, so if you have kids, you might want to watch it first and then determine if you think it's okay for them to watch. But I'd say take them to see it. Kids should see disturbing things. My favorite movie as a kid was Temple of Doom, so that's probably why I am the way that I am. But with that being said, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys later.
And don't give me that look. Don't think you're getting at us by being cute. Well, why are you handing me this? What is this? More trash? Better be a written apology. Let's see this. Oh, look how big you are. Oh, this is very nice. Hey, we gotta get this framed. Put up at the top of the fridge.